I'm just kind of sitting here watching back and forth. But now, as we're waiting for the Mappools showcase to get started, there's really not too much else we can do. So at this point, when we run out of stuff to say, we turn to our Twitch chat buddies and we ask you, hey, ask us questions, because we went over all the information that we have and we want to know what you guys want to know. Oh, never mind. Never mind. We don't want to hear anything about what you do.
Snatched it away.
Yeah, but we are ready now for the Mappools showcase, and our boy JBH Hyperion. Oh, I keep on saying JBH because it's capitalized, but JB Hyperion will go through the Mappools showcase, giving you the best knowledge that he possibly can, and I will sit here and probably just have my mouth hung open because it's way harder than I thought.
Okay, so our first matchup in the no mod is going to be Enso feat Gumi Koma, Rain Diff, map set by Nelly. So we're going to see an approach rate of 9.2, which is maybe a little bit higher than we've seen from most previous no mod picks. Fairly standard circle size of 4 and HP drain of 6, however. BPM is going to be 180, and I don't know a lot about this map. It's quite newly uploaded. Nelly has been mapping quite a lot recently in recent months, so hopefully they've improved quite a bit, and I'm interested to see how this one pans out for our players.
Just as a quick heads up for people, if you guys want to also check out the maps, looks like Ian Wolf is going to be posting map links in the chat, so keep an eye out for those if you're interested.
Okay, and our next map rocking up is going to be Crazy by Obsidia, mapped by Drafura back in 2013. So it's a little bit of a throwback to some of the more experienced players playing in the tournament. We're going to have an approach rate of 9, a HP drain of 7, slightly higher than we've seen before, and again a circle size of 4, similar BPM of 170. So we're going to be expecting a more traditional, kind of older style map here that maybe some players of this tournament aren't going to be familiar with. Lots of kind of linear slider patterns, some sharper jumps, and I don't know, I'm going to be excited to see how people adapt to this, because this is very far away from the current meta, and it's really exciting to see some older stuff getting some love. See some pretty intense, like little wiggling back and forth patterns here that could potentially present a drop opportunity, but also quite a lot of hyper dash usage as well, back and forth, which maybe I wouldn't have expected at this stage. And again, lots of spinners. So for people that are likely to FC this map, there's going to be a huge competition for score for those. Okay, moving back into the present, our third map for the No-Mod pool is going to be Dogfight by Move, map by CLSW. And I'm really happy that this map is featuring again. I'm sure it was deleted not too long ago, and I'm great to see that he's re-uploaded it and maybe pushing it further again in the future. This is going to be a long map, so over 4 minutes of drain time, with an approach rate again of 9.2, slightly on the higher side. Again, higher HP drain of 7, but a fairly consistent circle size of 4. And slightly slower on this side, BPM of 155. The length of this is really going to play to some competitors' strengths where consistency comes into play. Because while no particular part of the map is especially challenging, it presents a consistent challenge with lots of opportunities for fairly silly misses, basically due to the length and some slightly tricky 1-4 slider jumps. Can't obviously forget these signature 1-4 slider streams of anti-flow that CLSW has taken a liking to in recent years. I think they're pretty funky, and again, with No-Mod, they're not going to prove too much of a challenge. I'm glad that this isn't featured in the hidden pool, because that would be slightly evil. At least he's deigned to put a break in, so that's pretty kind to everyone. But as we can tell, as the map progresses, we're going to start seeing more back and forth jumps, more slider transitions, more hyper dashes, just a gradual building of intensity as further the map goes. So anyone that's feeling the pressure by this point has a high probability of cracking, and that's going to really open up opportunities for teams to steal a victory, I think. Typical fashion, even the calm sections aren't too much of a respite, so definitely players shouldn't be letting their guard down towards the end of the song, because you know that there's always a final intense chorus coming up that's just ready to catch people out. Okay, so after a long pick, we're going to be transitioning into something slightly shorter, Vajranda by Wa versus Selas. So this is Deef's Rain difficulty, slightly underappreciated little brother of the infamous PP Thunderclap difficulty. So we'll be presenting an approach rate of 9, circle size of 4, and a kind of middling HP drain of 6.5. So again, lots of potential for chokes here. given some kind of harsh slider transitions and slightly bigger than normal spacing. There are also some fairly nice inverted slider and stream sections which require you to turn direction in really rapid fashion that I find really exciting to play, and hopefully our players enjoy that as well. So again, another song featuring a nice calm rest section towards the centre before building right back up into a dramatic finish that everyone's going to want to stay on the edge of their seat to. No one's going to want to drop. Misses could be potentially very costly in the later stages. Okay, so to anyone expecting a whole host of catch-specific maps, you have been surprised. This year we are featuring Convert standard difficulties in the group stage no mod pool. Rejoice or Curse, whichever your preference. This time we'll be looking at the Primal Scene of Japan the Girl Saw from Dark Phoenix, which is a S-Joy map from 2014, and we'll be looking at the Flowers Lunatic difficulty. An approach rate of 9, circle size of 4, and again, a higher HP drain of 7. So I'm expecting this to feature some fairly tricky jumps, maybe some fairly random transitions that players wouldn't be expecting. I must admit, I'm not hugely in the know about this map, but I'm looking at it right now and looking like there's some fairly interesting slider jumps, some strong dashes that people maybe not quite expecting, so maybe one for the practice books to get down a great performance on this map. So continuing a bit of information about this map, we can see it's kind of middling in length of just under 3 minutes with a slightly high BPM of 192. So smaller 1/4 jumps, as they're included, are going to start to become slightly problematic for some players that aren't really prepared for them. But we're seeing a lot of kind of triple-based stop-start dashing motions, which snappy play styles are going to probably find very comfortable. Okay, so our sixth and final map of the No-Mod group stage pool will be The Good Left Undone by Rise Against. This is part of a pishy fat set consisting of a huge host of difficulties mapped all by himself. The approach rate for this will be 9 with a HP drain of 6, but the real draw of this map is circle size 5, which is different to all of the other maps that we've previously seen featuring the larger circle size of 4. So anyone who's proficient on hard rock or generally likes smaller circle sizes will probably find this one to their liking. Features a length of just over 2 minutes, so not particularly long. So any kind of misses with the smaller circle size are going to be potentially very punishing. So potentially one for the more consistent aim-focused players. Another interesting thing about this map is actually that there's a variable BPM section between a slower kind of pre-chorus and then a faster verse, which again players are going to have to adapt to. Okay, so that concludes our 6 no-mod picks for the group stage. We're moving on to Hidden Pool now, and this is a map that I have no problems recalling, much unlike the previous 2. So this is one of my difficulties from a Fjarlægur Sipic remix by Oscar Schuster. And the real draw for this map, which I'm kind of surprised at, is an AR8 hidden pick for group stages, which people are potentially going to find quite challenging. It does compensate for that by featuring a shorter length of only 1 minute and 20 seconds of drain time. Slightly smaller circle size than I would have expected at 4.3, and a fairly average HP drain of 6. You can already see some people kind of raging at AR8 hidden in the group stage already, so this is probably going to be a very interesting match that I'm ashamed to say I'm not would be surprised if a lot of people ban this out, purely for the AR8 hidden factor. And whilst that's going to make me a bit sad, of course I can understand why that would be, because there are some strange slider shapes on this map that are very inducive to misses, and I think a lot of people probably wouldn't wish to take the risk with this. But hey, maybe we'll see it get played a couple of times. Okay, so moving on to our second hidden pick for the group stage, we are going to look again at another catch-specific map, Illness Lilin by Kaneko Chiharu, and this is the Taske's Sea Exhaust difficulty. So, whilst this does feature a slightly more approachable approach rate of 9 and an accessible small circle size of 3.4, the draw of this map that a lot of players could struggle with is the insanely high BPM of 280. So, with a lot of slightly tricky fast transitions, a miss here could potentially induce a lot of drops that's really going to impact the player's score. This is a 2-minute long song, and again is very recently mapped, so cutting edge of the current meta, a lot of people may be seeing this for the very first time. Yes, to people asking, no, this is not the 11.5 star Dystopia Gravity Diff. I don't suppose we'll be seeing that later on if this is picked here, but I don't know, maybe someone will pick it for a warm-up. And our third and final hidden pick for the group stages is going to be Honor to Honor no Yuri game by Mikami Shihori and Okubo Rumi, and this will be the Yuri Yuri diff. This is a standard convert from 2012. We'll be looking at 2 minutes of length, approach rate of 9, circle size of 4, and a slightly high approach HP drain of 7. So to some people's excitement, yes, there is a converted map in the hidden pool for this year, in addition to what we saw in the standard pool. So for all you convert players out there, you have not been forgotten. People have provided for you our lovely map pool selectors, and hopefully this one will be of interest to you, and we might see it picked up a few times. So again, we're looking at a kind of middling approach rate of BPM, of 175, and some fairly kind of strong slider transitions, which with hidden some players might struggle with. So I'm kind of expecting there to be quite a lot of drop potential on this, just based on the fact that it's quite jumpy. There's not a lot of hyper dashes, and the hidden is going to make slightly problematic transitions there for some players. Okay, so that concludes our 3 hidden picks. We'll now be moving on to the hard rock pool. And for the first time, we will be seeing a catch-specific map in the hard rock pool for group stages with Higurashu no Naku Kori ni TV size by Eiku Shimamiya. I apologize. This was a specific map, but it was originally submitted in 2013. So this could be quite an older style that a lot of people will not be familiar with again. We'll be looking at, again, at a high approach rate of 210, with an approach rate of 7 up to 9.8 with hard rock. Circle size of 4 up to 5.2 with hard rock, and a HP drain of 6 up to, I think, 7.8. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So whilst this diff is the platter, any new kind of players in the current meta maybe don't expect this to behave like a lot of current platters. There could well be some tricky edge dashes in here, especially with hard rock being added. But it looks like the note density is not hugely high, so hopefully any misses aren't going to be a massive problem on the players, and they can recover before that HP drain starts to take effect. Okay, moving on to our second hard rock pick. This time we are heading to a standard convert. This will be Chirality by Camellia, the hard diff. So this will feature an approach rate of 10 with hard rock and a lower HP drain and circle size to maybe offset that a little bit for some of the players that aren't so experienced with that high approach rate. Similar to the last map, we'll be looking at a 90-second song, and again, high BPM, this time 201. Whereas the last map focused a bit more on more lenient patterns, allowing for kind of recovering if a drop was made, this map is going to feature a lot of triplets, quads, and other kind of more dense patterns where the HP drain is going to start to come into effect. So potential for huge drops and maybe even fails here on some of these dense stacks and streams. And our final hard rock pick for the group stages will be Kyun Kyun Tamaran Inabatan by Tsubaki. Again, this is another standard convert from even further dated 2012. An approach rate of 7 will go up to 9.8 with hard rock, and similar circle size and HP drain settings to our first map. We'll be looking at a slightly lower BPM this time of 180, but to offset that, we have a much longer song, this time just under 3 minutes drain time. So this is going to be more of a challenge for consistency on our players than two of the previous picks, which featured maybe a bit more on kind of shock patterns and density to catch players out. This is definitely going to be, I think, a more lenient pick, but featuring more strength and consistency to show through and really set a great score on this. Any teams that aren't comfortable with hard rock are probably not going to want to play this just based on the length and the fact that trying to build a good score with insufficient kind of combo potential is going to be a real problem for them. Thankfully, this map is featuring some kind of stacked vertical patterns and a couple of breaks, which are going to offer the players some rest. But the slider transitions are really not going to give up too much respite to players. They're going to have to keep their eyes on this one from start to finish and really try and set a great score without too many mistakes. Whilst there is potential for mistakes, people aren't going to want to be missing any of these short edge dashes and slider jumps, because it's very easy to lose focus just for a second and drop combo here. Okay, so that concludes our hard rock picks. We'll now move on to our 3 double time picks. And it wouldn't just be fair if hard rock had some catch-specific maps for the first time. We will be featuring specific group stage double time picks for this Catch the Beat World Cup. And we'll be moving on to our first, Hikaru Nara by Goose House. This is Ascendance's Platter difficulty. So whilst we're featuring a slightly lower approach rate of 7.8, which maybe some players will be slightly more accustomed to, able to feel the rhythm for more, and a lower circle size of 3.5, the draw for this map is its length at nearly 4 minutes. So similar to the last map, this will be a test for consistency for players, where any kind of slight mistakes or loss of focus could really be a problem to players trying to maintain consistency. This is again quite a new map that's received quite a bit of work in recent weeks and months, so I'm expecting it to be a fairly clean difficulty, nothing too dramatic, but maybe kind of people should be caught out by some of the anti-flow sections or dashes where maybe hypers were expected. Bearing in mind this is a platter difficulty, so you shouldn't be expecting hyper dash density to be too high, so please do bear that in mind. As the map progresses, we'll notice a slightly more implementation of anti-flow patterns that could become a bit of a problem with the maybe stronger than average hypers that would be expected. Potential for players to overshoot some of these quite easily and end up dropping combo near the end, which would be a real pain to anyone looking to perform consistently on this long map. Okay, and moving on to our second double time pick, we have another catch-specific map, this time OK by Tokyo Machine, created by Wild194, and this will again be the platter difficulty. We'll be looking at an approach rate of 8, so slightly higher this time around. And we will be focusing again on a smaller circle size than normal. And again, quite long at 3 minutes. So even though the BPM is much lower on this at 128, and the combo is not that high, this is still a consistency test for players, based purely on the length and the amount of time they have to focus for. This map was ranked just a few months ago, and hopefully players will kind of get accustomed to the fairly snappy slider transitions that Wild 1 has included in this map. I think it's quite nice as an introduction to specific double time maps in the group stage pool. Not too much anti-flow to speak of, but enough to kind of really generate interesting hyper dashes and flow that a lot of players are going to probably be quite familiar with, though some players might struggle with also. So without being too difficult or too hard, I think this is a pretty solid pick from the selectors in terms of double time, so good to see it in the pool. And we'll move on to our final double time pick of the group stage, which is a specific convert. So not all, a convert standard. So not all specific catch the beat maps this time around. We again looking at quite a long map with 3 minutes of drain time. Again, an approach rate of 8, so 9.6 with double time. And this will be the Executioner by 7th Expansion. This is a standard map from 2011, mapped by Natake. And with a fairly low BPM again of 134. So with double time, obviously that's going to be increased quite a bit, but nothing that should be too out of control for players at this stage. I'm going to expect some short streams, triplets, that kind of thing, which if missed might severely impact on a player's possibility to pass and set a good score. But otherwise, some fairly kind of nice slider transitions, nothing too crazy as far as converted maps go, although there might be some nice back and forth jump sections to catch players out if they're not quite paying attention. So here we can see quite a lot of back and forth jumps, which shouldn't be too much of a problem at this BPM, though with all the pressure of playing quite a long song, then you never know, there might be some jumps catching players out, some misses sneaking in, and as the map gets further on, there's only going to be more potential for that with pressure mounting. So do bear in mind that you're going to keep an eye out for some edge dashes in places, a couple of screen jumps, and some of those wiggling sliders that players will probably try to stack, but some show-offs might try and wiggle those, who knows. Okay, so with all of our no-mod, hidden, hard rock, and double time picks selected, we will be moving on to the tiebreaker, which for this year's group stage is Necrophantasia by Misato. And this is a collab difficulty mapped by myself and Magic Girl earlier this year. It features a BPM of 175, a drain time of 5 minutes and 40 seconds with no breaks. So players will be severely tested on their consistency at this stage. The approach rate of 9.4 is maybe slightly higher than we've seen from tiebreakers in previous years, but the circle size of 3.7 is a bit lower, which offers a little bit more leniency to players in this regard. HP drain 6, fairly middle of the road. I think the real draw of this map will be the low amount of hyperdash usage, and its kind of fairly heavy usage of regular dashes, which when combined with anti-flow can present some fairly strong jumps. This could be a struggle for some players to maintain combo, so I'm expecting there to be quite a lot of potential for misses here, which will probably kind of infuriate some people on such a long song. But that being said, I think it's a pretty nice pick for group stage tiebreaker. Not doing anything particularly kind of dramatic or unexpected, just being a fairly nice test of consistency over the course of nearly 6 minutes, which I think is what a tiebreaker is supposed to do, really, to separate out the kind of clutch plays and really bring the best people to the forefront. So hopefully we do get to see this a couple of times. I think there were 5 tiebreakers played in last year's Catch the Beat World Cup. So we'll hopefully see this a couple more times as well, and get that tiebreaker hype going. So I don't have too much more to say about this map. I'll just leave you guys to enjoy the rest of the stream. thank you all for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed watching the drawings and the Mappools showcase, and get practicing those maps. We will see you in about 1 week, ready for the start of the group stages. So enjoy this one, guys. See you later.
All right, and that is going to conclude our Mappools showcase. Huge thank you to JD Hyperion for going through those map notes for us. With that being said, guys, we will be wrapping up this broadcast. We thank you so much for coming out, and we've got a little bit of information to leave you with before we go. Now remember, group stage will be starting next week, and if you have any questions as to the times and availability or what the streaming schedule is going to be, please refer to the wiki. That is going to be your saving grace. It is the number one thing you need to do. Like, the wiki is your friend. Love it. And I am so glad that we got to see all these very nice maps. And aren't you glad that we had JB Hyperion to go through them? With that all, though, remember, guys, rhythm is only a click away, and we'll see you next weekend for some fruity goodness.
Tell me what you want.